I got a real treat for you today. I'm here with the great Chris Matthews. I've been a fan for years. I miss him on MSNBC. He's on there sometimes now, but I miss his 7 o'clock show. But he's still a huge voice out there. He's on thechrismatthews.substack.com. He's written so many books. It was 8 books you've written. How many books you've written, sir?
10 starting tomorrow.
Let's talk a little current events before we get in. We sell some books here. What's your thinking? Just the Democrats have kind of come forward, a number of them, and it looks like the government's going to shut down. You and Joe were talking this morning how, regardless of who says who won or lost the shutdown, the Democrats have a roadmap for the future and how to play this.
Yeah, well, they had a good week, and that's good, and maybe they should benefit from their wins. I think the danger, of course, is that with Harold Macmillan, remember we used to say, events, my man, events. And, we get a plane crash next week over Thanksgiving at Reagan Airport or New York or somewhere, anywhere. And who's going to get blamed? Trump would probably place that blame on the Democrats.
Of course.
And the other question, the other half of that question is, how many weeks do you have to spend? How many months do you have to spend before the Republicans are going to change their mind about Obamacare? Now, the last time we noticed, there's only one Republican they hated for it. That was John McCain, because he didn't vote the right way. They don't want to be for Obamacare. They don't want to be for ACA. They don't want to be for Medicaid. It would probably the last inch after the punishment of the shutdown, they would give in on that very issue. The danger was, as I said to Joe this morning, was, you were right, Joe. You said, what happens when it doesn't work? What happens when ACA and Medicaid do not stop the government shutdown? Something else will. Food stamps, plane crashes, the failure of the air traffic controllers, anything else that causes the shutdown to end, it means the Democrats lose. So, and that was beginning to develop, and they were learning they'll never win on the Medicaid. They can only lose. And I think they discovered the right call. So that was I was with them. I think it's not going to be exciting. It probably is going to expose Schumer to a primary challenge, I guess.
Which he was set up for anyway. I mean, I think.
I think it's just that he's focused. Look, Chuck Schumer, I look at the guy and I look at his IQ and I know how smart he is. And I think he's exhausted from fundraising. I just think, the freshman spends too much time raising money, and so does he. It's his strength. It's why he's Wall Street.
It's what he's always done.
And I think he probably, his IQ was exhausted. And I think some of the staff-written stuff he does is so boring. When he stands at the podium and reads that stuff, I say, who wrote that stuff?
Yeah.
Can't you write an original line? You're the Senate Majority Leader. And then again, I know the history of Senate Majority Leaders. They're not supposed to be interesting because they want other senators to be interesting. They don't want to get in their way.
We certainly have a relatively uninteresting one right now. Give me a take on Mr. Johnson.
Shrewd, smooth. How many times did he say the Democrats were giving health care to illegal immigrants?
Just out loud.
A million times. And he said it with absolute surety. And there were Democrats on the Schumer side said, absolutely wrong, absolutely untrue. We'll probably never get to an actual discussion of what was true, if either side was true. It's probable that they're talking about emergency rooms.
Yeah, which by law has to serve everybody.
Which they have to, but that's not illegal. That's by the time they go to that emergency room, they're legal. So I don't know. I don't trust the Democrats at all. I don't trust Mike Johnson at all. But he said that over and over again. And he knows it's the poison pill. He knows illegal immigrant kills any argument. Yeah. Just does.
So Democrats had a good week.
With his side.
Democrats had a
very good week. I really like Mikey. Mikey is just like the kid in the commercials that likes the cereal. There's something about Mikey that she really was excited. I love her resume. I love Annapolis. I love Annapolis and the London School of Economics. Give me a break. And Georgetown Law. This is a person who prepared herself for public life. That's a great resume. And I thought it was really nice that she won and got over her arguments about who told what with the honor-coded Annapolis and all. And the other guy's argument was kind of interesting. I'm sure you're being a New York person, you appreciate this. When he said Ciantinelli. He said, I was born in New York. I'm not like Corzine or this other guy, Murphy. He said, it was like, oh, is that what this election is about? My wife said to me, she's a former Democratic Party chairman of Maryland. She said, I get it. He's playing the town versus gown thing again. It's very clever. It's not about being born in New Jersey. It's being of New Jersey. I know what it was about. It was a very clever line. You know, I'm the real thing.
So here's what worries me about. Here's what worries me from last week. And I know a lot of people are excited about Mandami. I'm worried that the party's going to lurch too far left. That they're going to say, "Oh, look at that."
Of course it is.
You know,
and
that Trump is salivating, and that basically when Mandami win in so many ways is going to be a death knell for the Democratic Party going forward.
Okay, let's start with the history. Willie Horton. Where did he get that name, that sort of black name, if you will, a street name? Where did he get that name, Willie Horton? He got it from Lee Atwater. He had never been called Willie before, but Lee Atwater said, he's my Willie. I knew what he's going to. He said, I'm going to make him Al Gore's running mate. He knew what he was doing, and it played to the scapegoat. This time around, I think if I were advisor to Magdani, which I'm not, I would stand next to him, and every time he begins to speak, I would say, caution. As John Lindsay, and before him, what's his name? The great Italian mayor of New York, LaGuardia, said, there's no Republican way to collect garbage. Your job is to collect garbage. Number one, that's your job.
That's it.
The rest is peripheral.
And the snow.
And every time you talk about Israel, it's peripheral. It's peripheral. It's not doing with the job you got elected to. There's nothing in that job description that says, speak openly about the Middle East. Don't. Yeah. You want to do it, fine. It's wrong. But you are in charge of delivering civic services, collecting the trash, collecting the garbage, making sure schools are safe. Be around when the snow falls. Do the job, because that's how you're going to be recorded. That's what Lindsay had to face. Everybody does in New York and in Chicago, big cities. My idea of a great city, and the reason I like Giuliani in a couple instances, during
the old Giuliani.
Yeah. During 9/11, he stood on a street corner and answered questions about the anthrax threat. And I remember that because that reminded me of, Tom Gibbons, the police commissioner of Philadelphia, who was my brother's best friend, his kid. And Gibbons would stand on the street corner when there was a 4 alarm fire and show himself there. That's what people want to see. They want to see the police commissioner and the mayor on the street corner during the fire. And you got to be there. Everything else is BS. I mean, be there for that. Are you prepared to be that guy? Are you prepared to go to all the meetings at night where you're expected, all the ward meetings? Are you expected? Are you going to do it? Or you got something else in mind? And I don't know whether he does that, have this other thing in mind. I don't know why he's running for office. Why is Cuomo talking about running in Nadler's district? I mean, some of these guys, what do they just have to have an office? Like Mondale used to say, I need an office. Yeah. What's that about?
But Trump's got to be salivating that from here on in, he's going to call the Democrats the men Democrats. He's going to use this. And by the way, it may have worked on in parts of New York City, or not New York City, certainly the outer boroughs. It ain't going to work in Michigan. It ain't going to work in Wisconsin. It ain't going to work in Pennsylvania. You know that better than anybody.
I don't know. He's probably going to mention Mandani's name more often than he does Gavin Newsom.
Yes. I think he's threatened by Gavin Newsom because
think so,
because he's handsome and he's tall and he punches, and that's not an adversary that Trump likes.
That, because here the empty suit was the tag on him before, but in the last couple of years he has shown an ability to talk in the same stratosphere as Donald Trump. He's up there. He can talk to him at that level. He can tag him, troll him, whatever. And I'm telling you, that may be the secret. I'm not sure Josh can do it, Josh Shapiro. I don't know if he can do it, or JB Pritzker. I don't know. Yeah. I met them. I don't know if they can, but I know he can do it. And it's a unique talent to grab Trump's attention. And he can do it.
And what's interesting,
DeSantis couldn't do it. He was a local yokel fighting it out with Disney World because they had gays or something. I don't know what it was. What was his problem with Disney World? Why did he pick a fight with Disney World? It's insane. He should have picked this fight with Trump.
What's interesting about picking a fight, obviously Newsom has been punching and he really has the right beats and the right note and the right tone. Trump does not address him. You don't hear Trump talking about Newsom at all? Really, it's because I think
Well,
he sees him as a formidable adversary.
he did say the other day that he had gotten the word from his pals from Silicon Valley that San Francisco, which city I love, is picking up its act. And boy, did it have to. It absolutely has to. I mean, you walk around Union Square. I mean, just go out there. All the storefronts are destroyed by the homeless. Just destroyed. There's no storefronts left. They're just gone. And you go, why did any mayor, any politician let that happen? They did.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the book. We'll get back to some current events later. The book, Lessons from Bobby, 10 Reasons RFK Still Matters. All right, you break it down into 10 kind of lessons, but give me the headline. Why does he matters, obviously. He's such
okay,
a
wait. I'll tell you why it works with me, okay? When I started out, I was a G. McCarthy guy. Most guys who are in grad school were McCarthy's back here because he started in November of 67, and Bobby didn't get in until the day before St. Patrick's Day in March the next year. I think he started off as a nobody. He was the seventh of 9 kids. He said that when you're seventh of 9 kids, you're lucky to survive, and that was true. His father called him one of the runt of the litter. The runt of the litter, he called him. His brothers were all taller than him, all better looking, and better speakers in many ways. Jack and Bobby and Ted, I mean, they were all loomed over him in terms of courage, image, whatever. Heroes, 2 of his brothers were heroes. I think by the time he died and was killed, that the picture of the people along the railroad tracks, the Acela route from New York at St. Patrick's Cathedral down to Arlington, where he joined with his brother, his dead brother, both assassinated. The track lines
black and white
filled with black people in Philadelphia, where they sang the Battle Hymn of the Republic spontaneously on the 30th Street platform, or all the places in between. It's chilling to think about it. Were white people, white working people, and they were saluting. And I've got pictures of them, are astounding. They salute. The father clearly had been in the military and is an enlisted man, and the kids were lined up in order of birth, with the wife there too, all lined up in military fashion, saluting in their way this man, as they believe was a great man. And this connection was wonderful, and it was cross racial lines and class lines. It's even better than that, more current. The college versus non-college, the town versus town thing going on. Bobby was just the opposite of that. He was the least condescending person in the world. He, as Frank Mankiewicz told me, he loved cops. He loved them doing their job. He believed in law and order. He said law and order, that was the phrase he used all the time. He believed you're not going to have liberalism unless you've got law and order. It won't work. If there's criminality out there in the minority community, all of it, nobody's going to be a liberal. It's not going to work. You have to have a cleaned up reality where people said, yeah, I believe in the law. And that's what I believe in. And of course, they're for minorities, because they're going to be held to the law too. And I think that was something unique. He would drive around in his car with Tony Zale, the middleweight champ, the guy who beat Rocky Graziano 2 out of 3 times. Remember the movie? Somebody up there likes me. He beat him a couple times. On the other side, he had the first mayor of Gary, Indiana. Open car. He wanted everybody to see him with the white and the black guy. He wanted people to see on with both communities. I mean, he really made an effort, and people honored that when he died. I think he took his orders from the Supreme Court, the federal courts. If you think about the SEC today, just to be obvious and be a jock about it, who roots for the SEC? People who like football, right? Have you noticed they've integrated those schools? Have you noticed that they're integrated?
Yeah.
Have you noticed that the backfield is integrated? You got it?
Yeah.
Bobby did that. He fought it out with Ross Barnett. He brought it in James Meredith. He fought the white people down. They were awful. The screaming, the horrible things they did, the stuff they threw at him. They were not on the side of integration. They were not on the side of having a strong backfield. They weren't for that. And then he did the same thing with Wallace. And then I've dug this up because I wrote a much larger book on Bobby before. he was in his ear the whole time, getting Jack to come out for the civil rights bill. I mean, he wrote it. I got it all in the new book. He did everything to make Jack come out on national television, to speak in prime time, to the point where Martin Luther King said, that white man just hit it out of the park. I mean, it was probably tough for Martin Luther King, Dr. King, to say that, but he meant it. This guy could do it. The Kennedys delivered. And I've done a lot of work on this. They called up Dick Daley. He was really working it when he got killed. Jack was. And he was doing it because of Bobby. Yeah. And Bobby got into it because John Siegenthaler got hit with a some kind of crowbar down during the...
It was a guy, he worked for him.
He was his administrative assistant, and he was beat up by some white guy during the Freedom Rides. And Bobby originally was against the Freedom Rides. He said, he said to Harris Wofford, tell your friends to go home. He said, another great line for him. It's hard to say today, but Bobby is so good on this. He said, I didn't give much thought to the Negroes. That was the term of art back then. It was a common use of phrase.
Sure, yeah.
Where Jesse Jackson really said, call us Black Americans. But he said, I didn't care about those people because I never thought about them. The same about the Vietnam War. He said, I was wrong about the war. I was with my brother on that. The great thing about him, you asked me what the big difference is, he admitted he made mistakes.
That's one of your 10
and that is so powerful. It was a great phrase, and you may have heard this in New York. He used to say, hang a lantern on your problem.
Yeah.
And go out there and tell people what you did wrong and what you've been wrong about. And I'm telling you, that is talk about it. It's not just Trump. It's everybody in politics. Tell me what you learned this year.
Yeah.
How many did you learn last year? Tell us Arthur Schleser, I once heard him say this. I used to think he was a lefty. He's a very practical guy. He said, politics is a learning profession. Yeah. You've got to learn something every day.
One of the other lessons that is going to be tough today, given the iPhone, is heal the divide, where both sides get to live in their own echo chambers, and the algorithms are set up that it's almost impossible to heal the divide now because people don't live in ecosystems that allow for it.
Well, I live in a family that's got that going on, and I got to tell you, Thanksgiving dinner is a minefield. That is a fact. I once had a friend of mine, Bob Schiffer from New York, a real New York, verbally aggressive guy. Let's put it from Brooklyn. Verbally aggressive. And he came, right? Yeah, you can figure him out. And Avenue Z, down in wherever that is down there, Coney Island. He grew up, and he came to my party, so he fought with my brother-in-law. It was the greatest thing in the world. Nobody in the family got in a fight. It was just Bob and this guy because the fight went on. It just wasn't us.
You also talk about being tough in the book. Bobby was tough.
Well, being a liberal, it doesn't mean that you're a bleeding heart, does it? I mean, that is the problem. I don't think he was for capital punishment. I discovered that years ago. But I think Kerry Kennedy, one of his young kids, was with him over at McLean, watching the riots. Now, he had just given the speech in Indianapolis about Dr. King, and it was courageous as hell in a black neighborhood. They basically come into that black neighborhood and tell the people that Dr. King had just been killed. He did that, and he was advised by the police who wouldn't go in with him that not to go in, and he went in anyway. John Lewis, who was with him and set up that event, was very proud of him for doing that. And he thought that he had to give the speech too. As a white person, he had to go in and explain another way of looking at this. He said, somebody in my family was killed by a white guy. I always thought that was an odd thing because it wasn't a racial thing if a white guy kills your white brother. But it was his attempt, maybe awkward, to tell people, look, I could be mad at a guy too, at an assassin, but I am not. And I think the effort was important. And then he went back, he's sitting in McLean, watching television like everybody else. He's watching Washington burn, and which happened. 14th Street went up, and the city character just changed that day. And his daughter, Carrie, said, this is not good. This is wrong. These people should not be burning things, disrupting life. That's not the right response to the loss of King. Which is interesting. I also, he's the only. Here's something I do a lot of digging on these books. A Capitol engineer once told me when I was a Capitol cop, he said, the only guy that used to come in, the only liberal that would come in, liberal senator, would come to work every day and always said hello to the cops. A small point, but if you think about it, why don't all those guys, liberals especially, you would think, say hello to the cops? They're working guys. Say hello. Bobby did. And that was the big message to me.
Along those lines, well, one of the lessons, you touched on this earlier, is enforce the law. Democrats need to understand that that's a universal message, that you don't win anywhere near defund the police. You don't win anywhere near not being tough on crime. I don't care whether you're white, whether you're black. And the Democrats need to understand that once and for all.
But yeah, why not? I mean, if their fundraisers decide they want liberal DAs because they want everybody to get off, live with a higher crime rate. Just live with a higher crime rate because it's part of the deal. If everybody gets off and there's no prosecutions, if people go into stores and raid CVS's for anything that's available that has been locked up, you're going to have trouble.
Well, that's what people.
I'm with the broken windows thing. I think it's a neoconservative argument that I buy. If the guy's forcing you to let him wash your window for $10 or $5, that's a problem. That's right on the edge of crime.
Which is why so many New Yorkers are really, really concerned right now with Mandami, because he's walked them back, but he talked about defund the police. He's talking about legalizing prostitution. He's talking about legalizing assault.
He wants to legalize prostitution? I don't think so.
That was one of the things he had said
This isn't Denmark or Amsterdam. Right. I don't think we have the culture for that to work.
I don't, but it's that mindset that's concerning so many New Yorkers.
Look, I'll say give him a couple months and see if he's mayor or he's got something else going on.
Yeah.
That's a fair question. Give him a month or two and see, are you willing to be mayor?
I hear you. Let's go back to the book. One of the chapters, and this is something that almost seems so counterintuitive to everything in politics today, although the Democrats just did it, know when to concede.
I grew up in the 50s and really grew up. And my first election night was sitting with my dad, who's a moderate Republican, watching Harriman concede, Governor Harriman, a noble man in many ways. I mean, a good noble man who was governor of New York, the crowning of his achievement, of his career. And he lost in 58. And we watched this proud man with all the money in the world, all the inherited money in the world, admitting human failure because Rockefeller had just beat him. And Rockefeller's going to win three more times. And my dad was really feeling it, a middle-class guy. And because people know the humiliation of defeat in politics, but you have to belly up and accept it. When I was in the Peace Corps in Africa, hitchhiking around all over the place, I'd say, unlike these countries where you have people that accuse everybody who beats them as being somebody stole the election and puts everybody in jail when they get in office. I said, that's a joke. We have a real democracy. You can actually lose an election, go teach in a college somewhere. You could go be proud. I lost. I tried. I lost. I let my people down. I worked for Frank Moss, a great guy from an LDS guy, a Mormon from Utah. What a great guy. I worked for people that lose elections. I worked for Jimmy Carter as a speechwriter. They're not happy to be losers. They don't like being losers, but they accept it. Trump won't.
No.
And, he calls up people and asks for votes. Give me 12,000 votes. He doesn't understand what democracy is. Do
you feel that there's any chance that we're going to have not free and fair elections going forward, particularly in 28? I mean, with the troops on the street and all this stuff, it just seems to be so much precedent to show us that we should be really concerned.
Well, here's what I think. I think you have to worry about secretaries of state, and you have to put your faith in them and the courts. The secretaries of state can be really great people.
By the way, if we didn't have Brad Raffensperger, we would have a very different outcome.
Brad Raffensperger is a great man, and he recorded his conversation with Trump. That was so smart. You want to talk to me, Mr. President? Let me get my recorder on. That was the end of the discussion to most people. Traditionally, a midterm, even a first term, you could be over 30 seats switching, going to the opposition. That's why I think the crazy Texans where Abbott was raising. The idea that they're going to pick up 5 seats and that's going to change their results, I don't think so. The fact that Gavin Newsom, which is probably his full right to do it, said I can offset that with my 5 seats. Well, I think it's going to be a 30-point election. And when Trump grabbed Stefanik and pulled her back from the UN, I thought, well, he needs the 1 seat. It's 1 seat he's worried about. And now she's running for governor. I mean, I think it's going to be a real election, and that means a dramatic turn. We'll see.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, Charlie Cook disagrees, but I think they're going to see, like we saw this week, when you see Bucks County going Democrat.
Yeah, take
an interest in that.
Nobody saw the big difference, and people thought the Mikey Sherrill race would be tight, 1 or 2 points, ended up being 12 points. The Spamberger was about the same. Nobody saw that, and obviously what happened in California, and so certainly if the election was today, I agree with you. Are you starting to see? I'm starting to see a Donald Trump that seems a lot more tired. That
he may be asleep. He may be
I
sleeping, and he's chubby. But look, I don't want to care about chubby because I think chubbiness is used in a way that hurt. I remember Corzine didn't use that against Chris Christie, and it really changed that election. When I saw that extra of Chris Christie getting out of the car with the white shirt on, I said, "Oh my God, they're making fun of him being fat." I said, "You start doing that in politics, you're going to lose a lot of votes right away." And thank God he did win.
Although Donald Trump, that hasn't held for Donald Trump because nobody picks on people's physical imperfections more than Trump does.
Well, little Marco and little Energy Bush and all, it worked at the time because we were all rooting for him. Let's be honest. Every Democrat in the world was rooting for him, saying, "Keep it up. You're destroying the Republican Party." And but Trump has a wit. He has a sophistication about what your business. I mean, he understands that the ability to react to events, spontaneity. A pollster up in Canada told me this, that every politician from whatever level he runs or she runs for has to have 3 ingredients: passion. Why are you there? 2, first one is motive. The second is passion. Do you cry? Do you laugh? Are you really somebody inside there? And the other one is spontaneity. And Trump is really good at spontaneity. I mean, he lives off of every movement in the cosmos. Anything happening, he reacts to.
Speaking of passion, every time I see a speech of Bobby's or archival footage of him interacting with people, I can never remember seeing a politician that you could feel their feelings. You could feel their empathy. You can't think that.
I think Arthur Schlesinger, who I've come to realize was really smart, the historian, of course, of Roosevelt and the Kennedys and Bobby especially, he explains in his big book on Bobby the difference between Jack and Bobby, which I know you're going to love. Jack was cold, like FDR. He was above everything. He wasn't one of us. Bobby felt for the people he was concerned about. He felt what it was to walk in the shoes of an African American because he was taught. Because Paul Corbin, his frightening staffer, told him, how would you like it if you had to drive around the South and you're an African American and you had to look for a place for your wife to take a piss? How would you feel?
Yeah.
You think you might be a little angry that you can't find a gas station that will let into the ladies' room? You think that wouldn't bother you? Be that guy. And so he would talk to him that way and got away with it. I think Bobby felt like that. I think he felt when James Baldwin came to his apartment in New York City at Central Park South with all the black elite, Harry Belafonte and a bunch of other really top people, writers and everything else. He was beaten up by a young guy who was a freedom fighter who just said, "I'm not going to. If anybody comes to me and tries to get me fight in Vietnam, I'll pull a gun. I'll have a gun ready." And Bobby thought that was awful and told him, "This is awful. I've got to leave. I can't take this." He thought about it and said, if I was him, that's what I'd be thinking. And he went to his brother, to Jack, and said, "We've got to give that civil rights bill. We got to start that fight." Do
you see any Bobby Kennedy in any politician today? Do you see any of that anywhere?
Well, there's pieces of people. I'm not in love with the left. I see a little piece of it. Maybe it's gone already. I liked AOC for this reason. She's not talking about the oligarchs, which means nothing to anybody in this country, thank God.
Well, she was. She was on that tour with Bernie, the oligarch tour.
I know. You're getting tough.
Right.
I'm trying to be nice here, all right?
Okay.
She was a waitress. And I'm telling you, anybody who's ever been lucky enough to go to restaurants on a regular basis, whether it's the local diner or whatever, you root for that. You root for that person.
Yeah.
You root for them because they know they got to do 5 things in their ears at the same time. This order, that order, somebody yelling for coffee, somebody for this. And it's a busy, busy life. And you're exhausted at the end of the day. And to say I was a waitress works with me. To say I don't like oligarchs doesn't work with me. That's, to me, strange. It's just strange. So she has some potential, not to be president, but maybe running in New York for the statewide. I don't know.
She'll run for Schumer's seat. I think that's. I don't want to say that's a given, but I think that's going to happen.
I think it will be a. See, Chuck works really hard at his job, which is his job description with all the other senators is okay. You're winning in a state you can't lose in the primary, in the general, but give me some money. So I'm Sherrod Brown running this year. You talk me into running, buddy. Yeah. Pony up. Help me out here. I'm running in Ohio, the red state, and I need money because they're going to pile the money on me against me. Or Bobby Casey when he got him into the race in Pennsylvania. All right, you're pro-life, but I need money. He goes to Schumer. And Pelosi was the same way. Pelosi's from San Francisco. There's 2 places you can get money, and that's the West and the left coast in New York City, and the Republicans get it from Texas, I guess. I don't know.
I want to ask you, because you're one of the smartest guys in any room. You have so much perspective, so much history. Are you more or less optimistic about this country than you were 20 years ago?
I just saw Nuremberg. Have you seen it? No.
I heard it's great, though.
No, it is. And Russell Crowe is great. Rami Malek is great. The fundamental question is, and I've been to Germany twice in the last year, just because I went on a cruise up the Rhine, and with my wife and I went to Leipzig, and where I went in 1989, and I felt a real difference in the German from the way they're portrayed in the movies, and they seem really different. Like they seem humbler. And I read this book by Henry Kissinger about Adenauer. He said the Adenauer, as chancellor, taught the Germans to be humble. It's a simple message. Stop with the goose stepping. Stop being who you are. Be different. But the movie has a different message. The movie suggests that the psychiatrist determined that Goering wasn't much different than the average Joe, that there was a lot there that's common and frightening. So I watched the movie. It just suggests that, I'm Catholic. I would go over to the cathedrals, and I did it over in Cologne Cathedral, which was spared by the Allied bombing. You go, wait a minute, were they praying here? The Germans were praying while they were doing everything else? Well, help me here, because Goering's argument is he didn't know anything. I didn't know anything. That was Himmler. I didn't have anything to do with that. That nobody really believes that. Ike didn't believe it. He made it. Salute Mike here, Eisenhower. He made people troop through the concentration camps to get their ration stamps so they weren't going to eat. So he understood how quickly the denial would begin. And that's a great man.
Well, along those lines, the anti-Semitism is on a historic rise.
Are you afraid? My favorite question to all my Jewish friends. I say, are you afraid? And they all say yes. So what does it mean to be afraid?
It is interesting. I think what's happened is for the first time, Jews are feeling this is a generation removed from the Holocaust. They're like, wait a second. So we're vulnerable. So wait a second. So there are people that don't want Israel to exist. So wait a second. We can elect a mayor that says globalizing intifada. There's no big deal there. Nothing wrong with that. We can elect a mayor that talks about the other anti-Semitic tropes. So yes, people are worried. Jews are worried.
Yeah.
They really are.
Well, have we moved much farther than we were a couple months after 9/11? Were we worried about a temple
Yeah.
being built near 9/11? And
Yeah.
I want to know about well, look, people should express their fear. I mean, it's the only way we're going to talk about this.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
but I'm sorry about that. And I don't understand it. Trump's not necessarily that way. I don't think he is.
Well,
And
Trump's
I think,
been a great friend to the Jews.
I don't think he. I think moving the embassy and shaking things up. I don't get it. I think it's America. We have the problems with race and we have the problem with anti-Semitism. It sits out there. We got to deal with it. I mean,
that's it.
But education still works.
That's it, Chris. I appreciate you taking the time. The new
you took the time.
It's the soon-to-be bestseller. Less is just out tomorrow, November 11th. This is going to probably air a little after that, but just so it'll be out. Lessons from Bobby, 10 Reasons RFK Still Matters. I think if you're anybody that is curious about yesterday, today, or tomorrow, it's an important book to read. I appreciate your time, sir. And we miss you. I'm going to just say this publicly. We miss you on MSNBC a lot. All right. I don't know if that's how that's going to go over in the home court, but it's the
you never know. You never know. But thank you for that. I hear that from a lot of people, and it's nice to hear. And I think the thing about Bobby that's unique, even in the Kennedy world, is vulnerability and toughness together. He was the Irish cop who integrated all those big universities and fought for civil rights, but yet people felt they needed to protect him, that he needed protection, whereas Jack never seemed to need protection.
Yeah.
And that's something people feel. Why do the funeral for Bobby was not a majestic event. It wasn't like Jackie Kennedy wanted it to be for her husband. There wasn't marching bands and drums and all the music and everything. There's none of that. It's just loss.
Yeah.
And I think that's why people remember it so well.
Chris, you're a gentleman and a scholar. You stay well, my friend.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Everybody, thanks for watching. If you like it, hit that subscribe button. And we love having you here watching On Brand. And just don't miss any future episodes. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next time.